and welcome to Rational Wisdom, the podcast that explores rational and practical ways of keeping a peaceful mind and enjoying living. My co-host is Steve Can. Hi, Steve.
Yeah, hi there.
And I'm Julie Farrell. So what have you got for us today, Steve?
Right. Well, I've been looking at the news the past week, and something that caught my attention was on the BBC website, and it was an article about love letters and kindness improving mental health.
Ah, sounds just up my street.
Yeah, isn't it lovely?
Yeah.
I thought bathe in love letters and kindness for a second.
Nice.
But there is quite a serious message behind it. It's not just about writing love letters and putting little hearts on them and sending it off. It's actually about a lady in the States, in New York, who was feeling anxious and depressed last year, and she found being around other people was making her anxious. That she had something called social anxiety, and it hadn't been diagnosed then. And she had this idea of writing love letters to strangers and just leaving them over the city in random places for strangers to find, or on a train or anywhere. And she'd write on the front of it, "This letter is for you." So you pick it up, that's your letter. And she left them in cafes and libraries and even around the United Nations building. But she said what she noticed was the result of doing this was that her sadness and loneliness decreased, or in her words, got backburnered. Backburnered. And she found something that allowed her to take a focus off herself. And I think you've mentioned it on the podcast before, that when we're not thinking about ourselves, we feel a lot happier, because that's when the little voice in our head can start criticising us, can't it? And we're not expanding ourselves out to other people and being of help to anyone else. And that's...
Well, when I'm thinking about myself, it's usually my problems. What are my problems and how can I sort them out? And I would imagine that's probably the same for everybody else. And I have also had panic attacks in a similar way to the lady is describing. And I know that when I take the onus, let's say, off of my thoughts and my body sensations, which might be uncomfortable, and start thinking about how I can be helpful to other people, as you say, it's more expansive, and it just makes me feel connected to people. And we're very social animals as human beings, aren't we? And I think we want to be connected to people. And it's really important, if you do have panic attacks or social anxiety, to give it the attention that it needs in terms of recovery, and to have therapy and that kind of thing, and do exposure therapy. Well, that's what works for me anyway. But in terms of sitting around dwelling on it, what's wrong with me? Why is this happening to me? That's just so unhelpful. Whereas if you can just go and be with other people, and I can say this from my own experience, that since I started going out and joined Toastmasters, local Toastmasters, and going to yoga, which is very helpful anyway, but just interacting with people, it's just made me feel so much happier, because I think we do get a lot of our thoughts about ourselves from other people, from people around us. So if we're connecting with people and trying to love them the best we can, then yeah, it's going to definitely have a helpful effect on us, I would say. So what happened to her?
Yeah, so it goes on to say, thank you, Julie, that's very nicely put, and I couldn't agree more, actually, because going back to what you're saying, I mean, I'm the same. I do meditation and yoga, and I'm a Toastmaster. And it is great where you do move with other people and you're actually helping them and you're giving them feedback and they're telling you how good your speech was, and it's better than just sitting.
Or not.
Yeah, that's right, as the case may be, which is better than just sitting at home on your sofa watching soap operas, isn't it? You really are reacting with people rather than just looking out of the window onto the world.
Yeah.
So it just goes on to say, this might sound a bit like new age nonsense to some people, but new research suggests that being kind might actually be good for your mental health. And it goes on to say as well, a study published in the journal Emotion reports that performing acts of kindness may help people with social anxiety be more positive, as this lady found out. And Dr. Lynn Alden and Dr. Jennifer True from the University of British Columbia asked volunteers with high levels of social anxiety to commit multiple acts of kindness on 2 days a week over a month period. You might just be giving a small gift to somebody, or giving somebody a lift, or visiting someone who's ill, or thanking a bus driver. And they found that the people that put themselves in these situations all felt the benefit of it afterwards, after the 4 weeks was up. Then once it was over, the participants in the Kind Acts group avoided social situations less and also reported increased relationship satisfaction. Performing kind acts appeared to have a bigger effect than cognitive behavioural therapy like tasks, which is normally used to treat people with this condition.
That's interesting, because cognitive behavioural therapy is the thing that worked for me in terms of recovery, but that's very interesting to hear that the evidence suggests to this particular group that the kindness actually helps them more.
Yeah, because with CBT, with something like that, you more likely put yourself into a position where you would get social anxiety and then face up to it and then go with the body sensations it brings up and ride them out.
Yes, exactly.
And be with them to overcome it. So they're saying, with this, you're actually going out and getting into action, aren't you, and doing something for other people. So it's like an added benefit, I suppose. And Dr. Nick Gray, the consultant clinical psychologist and clinic director at the Centre for Anxiety Disorders and Trauma in London, was initially wary of the idea of this performing kind acts, that it would be therapeutic. He was a little bit sceptical, like we can be sometimes. But he says it comes from a well-respected team, and the results speak for themselves. He doesn't think it's ever going to be a therapy in and of itself, but it could be the kind of activity that could be integrated as part of a broader treatment. And just to urge caution about performing acts of kindness, don't perform acts chosen by someone else for you to do, or just do it to impress people. Oh, I'm so kind, I go around being so kind to others and become such a great person. That isn't what it's about. It's about doing random things.
Yeah.
I think last year I was in a car park and this lady rolled up in a big posh sports car or something. She ran the window down. I thought she was going to have a go at me or something about my parking, when she just smiled and gave me her ticket. Said, "Would you like to have my ticket?" I said, "Oh, thank you." I was almost stunned. And it's just a small thing. It probably cost me £1 or something.
Yeah.
But it's that she actually took the trouble to, she saw me there, and I want to give my ticket to somebody so they can have it.
Yeah.
And it's just a little thing like that. It made me feel good. It must have made her feel good.
Yeah, I've had that to me before at pay and displays, in a car park when I didn't have the right change, and somebody, I've needed 10p, and a guy just sort of given it to me. What do you need? Oh, there you go, there's 10p. And I'm trying to get change for him and he's already walked off, kind of thing,
Yeah.
And it's just so nice to have that. And I know it sounds like a really silly, small thing, but I think we're so disinclined to put ourselves out there because we think we might get hurt or rejected, because that's how it sometimes is,
Yeah.
And obviously being British, we don't want people to think that we have feelings or that we're being impolite or anything like that. So I think we hold ourselves back. But yeah, just doing nice things for other people is very good, very therapeutic. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just looking through Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, as you were talking there, which is why I went very quiet.
Just happened to have it.
Which I just happened to have to hand. And it's by Richard Carlson, who I believe is no longer with us, but his wonderful book is, and I'd recommend it. It's absolutely brilliant. And he has a chapter called Practice Random Acts of Kindness, funnily enough. And I think he was a medical doctor, actually. I'm not sure. It doesn't say on the front, but I believe he was.
He's written a lot of books about positive living and the benefits of it.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And in this chapter, he's talking about how he was going through a toll bridge in San Francisco, and he was informed by the person collecting the toll. This was obviously a long time ago because it's all done by machines now, isn't it? That his toll had already been paid by the car ahead of him, and that made him feel really happy.
Wow.
And he says this example of a spontaneous random gift is something given without expectation of or demand for anything in return. And he says you can imagine the impact that tiny gift had on him.
Just like the car park ticket at the
Exactly,
pay and display.
It doesn't always have to involve cars,
But
obviously.
it can do.
Yeah, but it can do. And he goes on to say, as you said, Steve, it has to come from your heart and you have to want to do it yourself. You can't be forced to do it because otherwise you'll just have resentment. So So he says your gift might be to pick up litter in your neighbourhood, or make an anonymous contribution to a charity. Send some cash in an unmarked envelope to me if you want to. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Julie Farrell's the name, and I live in Maidenhead. Come and give me some money. I'm joking, obviously. Send some cash in an unmarked envelope to make someone experiencing financial stress breathe a little easier. Save an animal by going to a rescue shelter or volunteer to help hungry people. There's so many different things, and I think our time and money are probably two of the most precious resources that we have in this life. And so sharing them can feel like, I don't want to share them with other people. They're mine. It's my precious life, and it's my precious money. But if you do try to hold on to things like that, you kind of become more self-absorbed and self-obsessed. And perhaps you're missing out on connections with other people. And, just connecting with somebody and just sharing myself with them and just having a cup of tea and a chat with them is one of the most beautiful things that I can do in my life.
But also with this act of kindness, it's almost you're going up to a stranger, someone you've never met before. And that's even more powerful, isn't it? Because they know you even met you, don't know who you are, but you're doing something kind for them.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's really nice to do kind things for our friends, and Steve often does kind things to me. He's a very good and kind friend. But somehow, and I'm not taking anything away from Steve, but somehow if a stranger does something kind to me, I'll just be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Steve, this person just did this for me. Someone at work made me some toast because I wasn't feeling very well, and I just felt so loved and touched. Whereas if you made me some toast, not that I'd expect you to, but it's different, isn't it? Because I know that you like me in that way anyway. So I think if you involve a stranger, as long as you're not putting yourself in danger, obviously, then
Stranger danger.
there's another chapter in Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. I think just going through the contents of this book is brilliant. If you just go on Amazon and just read the beginning,
I think Julie,
the content.
a few years ago, you got the book for me, and I borrowed it off you. And I just started a new job, and I used to get there a little bit early, so I had a bit of time to sit in the car before I had to go in. And I actually read 3 chapters each morning of the book. There's like 2 or 3 page chapters, aren't they?
Yeah, very, very
just
short.
To get me in a nice mood, just to go into work. And
psych yourself up.
Yeah, that's great. And it's such lovely positive stuff, and that everybody can implement into their life. And I'd go into work with a smile on my face.
Yeah, and
face the day.
Yeah, and each little section, I think there's 100 or so in here. The title, just the title of each one, you can just meditate on that. Not like formally meditate, but you can just sort of consider it. Like this, for example, choose being kind over being right.
Wow.
It's so counterintuitive, isn't it? For us to not want to be right.
Yeah. There's a lot in that sentence, isn't there?
Yeah.
A lot of loaded into that we can all relate to.
Exactly, and being kind is such a beautiful feeling for me. Wanting to be right and arguing. I do choose my battles wisely, and there are things that I that I do want to stick up for, that I think are important to me, which I'm going to be coming on to in a minute. But I also totally can see that there are times, some people just seem to want to argue for the sake of arguing, and if that's what they want to do, then that's fine. But I don't...
Sounds like my teenage son.
Well, that's being a teenager. But I just don't, my life's too short for that. And so if I can just kind of respond by going, oh, okay, and just letting them have win it or whatever, then that's fine. He says also, don't confuse this strategy, being kind over being right, with being a wimp or not standing up for what you believe in. It's just that if you insist on being right, there's often a price to pay, which is your inner peace, which is true, And he says the best place to start is with the next person you speak to.
Wow. Okay. Well, when we finish this podcast, then we're going to do an experiment.
Nice people. The next one, I'm just going to read these out now for the rest of the podcast. Tell 3 people today how much you love them. I love you.
I love you too.
Practice humility. That's a good one, isn't it?
Again, that's a bit like not being right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not having to be right.
So the less compelled you are to try to prove yourself to others, the easier it is to feel peaceful inside.
So it's not like, look at me, I'm so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I think you get in sort of work situations, don't you, where you can get a bit of rivalry and you think someone's doing a really good job and you're being ignored.
Yeah, exactly. There's no point in having that competitiveness.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that you have to show excellence in your work when you want to prove to your boss that you deserve to have your job and your wages and that kind of thing. And I can see that a bit of healthy competition among colleagues is probably one thing, but when you actually go to war with somebody in your mind thinking, I've got to be better than them because they've come along and, they seem to be better than me and, it's just going to make you feel really uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, the horrible feeling,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's very stifling and it's
Yeah.
it's got no room for being happy or for being there for other people.
No, exactly. It's crazy. And I do sometimes when I'm at yoga, I'll notice somebody's doing the pose better than I am and I'll be like, oh my god, they're better than me.
I get that a lot, yeah.
Yeah, but then I'm just like, obviously that's just a thought that comes into my mind and I can just go, Julie, just don't be silly. As long as you're enjoying the pose and you're getting what you can out of it. It's not a competition.
Yeah, it's not being filmed and
no, and it doesn't matter anyway.
That's
why
how
I go
good the
to
pose is.
yoga. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's important for me to take that into my life, and to not be in competition with people and to just kind of enjoy their company and
and enjoy their achievements as well.
Exactly, because it doesn't change my achievements, does it? If they've won something, then why would I be upset about that? Because this doesn't make any difference to me at all. I'm still in the same situation. If I want to do well, then I have to do the best I can.
No, it'd be like being the Man United supporter, you've got to win everything all the time.
They do though, don't they?
Yeah.
This one, sorry, finally, I'm just going to read another one of these out because they're so good. And this is advice for anyone who lives with anybody else, which is probably quite a lot of people. I certainly do, and I know Steve does. When in doubt about whose turn it is to take out the trash, go ahead and take it out.
That's a classic one, isn't it?
And I think that is actually not about taking out the trash. It's about
euphemism for other stuff,
it's
isn't it?
It's an
allegory.
An allegory, an analogy.
Analogy, yeah.
Yeah, so if the dishes need to be done, then just do them. Which is why this book's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff.
Yeah, it reminds me of a comedy act that we saw recently.
Oh yeah.
And where he said about someone around here really ought to do the dishes. When you're living with students, then it's like, it could be me, it could be someone else. But when you're living with this one person in a relationship, and they're saying that normally it's a woman, to be honest, it says somebody around here could be doing the dishes. Then it's obviously, it's aimed at just you. Which I thought was really funny.
Yeah. So you're saying that women should be doing the dishes, Steve?
Oh, I think I've put myself in a terrible hole here, haven't I? I'm going to edit this out.
Oh no. So he concludes that one by saying, making things like garbage less relevant in your life will undoubtedly free up more time and energy for truly important things.
There you go. So it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I think we should say to people who are listening to this, that can be your aim this week. Do one random act of kindness for somebody and see how it makes you feel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good idea. I was going to say, what are you going to do? But then I suppose you might spoil it.
But it won't be random though.
Yeah.
I can't plan it.
Exactly,
I can't plan it the night before.
Yeah. Right, tomorrow I'm going to give someone my parking ticket.
Yeah, it'll just happen out of
your good heart.
Yeah, and whatever situation I find myself in.
Well, I wanted to talk today about something that we touched on really, but about limiting beliefs. So our limiting beliefs about ourselves and our limiting beliefs about everything else in the world, which, there's only two camps really, isn't there? There's me and there's everything else in the world. And I was watching Carry On, which one was it? Carry On Up the Khyber.
Oh, yeah.
And Kenneth Williams was trying to attack a fort that the other people were in. and they kept on firing cannons at them. And he said, "How are we supposed to rouse the British? They're so stiff upper lipped, but if you put the milk in before the tea, then they go berserk." And sorry, Kenneth Williams, for my terrible telling of your brilliant line there. And it made me think, yeah, it's true, you know, because there are some people who I have met even in my generation who insist on putting the milk in before the tea.
Which is me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
Oh, how embarrassing.
You mean to say you don't put it in first? What's wrong with you?
Well, actually, how do you know? We're going to have a little argument now. How do you know how much milk you'll need until you put the tea in the cup?
Because I instinctively know from years and years of making cups of tea.
But how do you know how much milk I'll want in my tea?
I suppose I can just do a mental sort of calculation based on the size of your cup that I put enough pints
No,
of
this
milk.
isn't a carry-on film, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so if you want to put the milk in before the tea, that's obviously fine. And if you want to insist on certain ways of saying things, Steve, I know you're very into your grammar as well, then that's fine. But it's just interesting to think, where do these beliefs come from? And are they limiting us? Obviously, putting the tea in before the milk or whatever, which way round is absolutely fine. Unless it could actually lead to an argument, couldn't it? You know? Oh my God, don't you make tea that way? You don't know anything about making tea, you know? And people would possibly judge other people on that, wouldn't they? So there's those kinds of limiting beliefs that, let's say, are culturally imposed, that we've just inherited like that. That you always have to say please or thank you, that men have to wear trousers, unless they're Scottish, and then we don't call it a skirt, we call it a kilt, you know, it's like linguistic garnish there. And it's like all these little rules that we just take for granted, and they're totally fine, and I'm not saying that men should wear dresses or anything like that, obviously. But I just think sometimes when they can become limiting and they stop us from wanting to do things, or they make us judge other people, you know, that can take our peace of mind away.
You don't do it the way I do it, so you're wrong and I'm right.
Exactly.
And I'm superior to you now,
Yeah.
and you're stupid.
Exactly, and then that gives you little ego puff.
Yeah.
But ultimately you're separating yourself from that person, and you're saying, well, you know, don't you know how to use a knife and fork properly? Oh my God, are you know, stupid or something? But it's just, maybe, you know, there are people in the world who don't use a knife and fork. You know, I know it's shocking. Steve's looking at me like he can't believe it.
People like in America who eat pizzas with their hands.
No, not just Americans. I mean people in China, for example,
yeah.
and you know, a lot of people in India. Chopsticks. Exactly. But yeah, it like you say, it gives us this sort of superior feeling over other people, which disconnects us from them, really, and stops us from being able to...
Being a snob, isn't it, really?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look at me, I'm better than you, because I know how to hold my knife and fork.
Yeah, exactly, and I know which fork I should use on
in.
Yeah, exactly.
Which course.
Exactly. But there's also other limiting beliefs which probably very, very likely, have come from outside of us, in terms of teachers, parents, friends, when we were growing up, that can really hold us back in terms of not really achieving what we potentially could achieve. And, you know, I was talking about how I've had panic attacks myself in the past. And I was a very confident, quite cocky person before I started having panic attacks in 2005. And they really destroyed my confidence. Because I was just constantly afraid. I didn't know when I was going to have this huge fear, just this terror would come over me for seemingly no reason. And eventually I had exposure therapy, which sounds ruder than it actually is. I didn't expose myself, I exposed myself to the situation and the feelings, and then I got better by desensitizing my fear. But in the fallout of that, let's say, it's left my confidence shaken a little bit. And going to Maidenhead Speakers Club, to Toastmasters, has really helped me so much. But it took me quite a lot of guts, I would say, to go along there in the first place. And I had these thoughts saying, oh, no, you can't do that. What if you have a panic attack? What if nobody likes you? You know, just normal human being stuff. Well, I know not everyone has panic attacks, but you know, we want people to like us. We want to feel like we fit in.
And we don't want to look stupid, do we? Or there's something
Exactly.
wrong with us.
What if everyone knows that I'm nervous or
Yeah, because you think
or
other
I say
people
something stupid?
can see it and are scrutinising us all the time, and they're not, are they?
No,
It's all in the mind,
exactly.
really.
And most of the time, if I feel a certain way, nobody knows that I feel like that, but it feels so real to me that I just assume everyone else knows that about me. So I just wanted to share that, you know, over the last 2.5 years or so, when people at Maidenhead Speakers Club have been asking me if I'd quite like to do this role, you know, contest chair or come on the committee and, you know, try doing something a bit, just putting myself out a little
Out of
bit.
your comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've kind of, my initial reaction to myself has been, oh, I can't possibly do that. Don't they realise what a fraud I am? But I've done it because I thought, well, they believe that I can do it, so I'll do it. And so that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years. And now I'm doing a podcast, which is really cool. And I'm blogging, and I did stand-up comedy course in November. And also, there's a local stand-up comedy club that we often go to once a month. And the compere, the MC who organises it, is actually unable to make it this month because he unfortunately had a motorcycle accident. He's fine. He phoned me up last night and he said, would you be able to cover as the MC? And my little voice inside my head was going, say no! You can't possibly want to do that. You're not funny enough.
That's the voice that we were talking about last week.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly.
The limiting voice. So I said to him, okay, as long as you let me know what I have to do, then that's fine. I'll give that a go, and Steve's gonna come along and give a hand as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to maybe share with people that you don't have to believe everything that's been downloaded into you, or even everything that you think about yourself. And I'm not saying that you should do anything dangerous, obviously, or that could endanger anybody else, or anything reckless or illegal. That's my main disclaimer. But just maybe to try something new. And if you don't like it, then stop doing it.
Yeah.
You know.
But you find it stretches you as a person, doesn't it? I've found from doing Toastmasters as well. I'm probably more shy than you are. You know, so for me to get it was a huge step, and it's just been amazing for me. You know, it's like I can't believe how I felt when I first went to the first time, first evening out. I just sat there in the chair like, oh God, I couldn't ever go up there and say anything. No, I just couldn't do it. You know, it would be a nightmare. And then, you know, a year or two later, I'm actually, like you, chairing the actual contest and being the host for the evening. And, you know, and I look to people walking up the street as if I must know what I'm doing and must be one of the people there that's sort of in charge of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is crazy, you know.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that you can challenge those beliefs, like you say, and you can work on them, and they really are just all in the mind.
Yeah, and it gives you a lot more confidence. You know, something quite small, like I've been able to, over the last 2 weeks, we've been doing headstands at yoga, and I've now been able to balance in headstands for 5 minutes without using the wall, and it gives me so much confidence in other areas of my life, because it gives me stamina and makes me realise that I can do that, you know.
And you see the world from a whole new perspective.
Yeah, you
from
do.
Down there, don't
yeah,
you?
exactly, you do. And, you know, it's given me, not necessarily doing headstands, but the work that I've been doing over the last couple of years has given me the confidence to say, I'm going to self-publish my novels, you know, and I'm going to be launching them on Amazon quite soon. But that's really exciting. And previously, I never would have thought that I could actually do that myself. I would have thought, oh no, I must get an agent. I must get somebody to do that for me.
Well, that's what other people do, but you can't
exactly.
because you're not good enough, or your books aren't good enough.
Yeah, exactly. But they are, and I can.
And you will.
And I will. And I'm going to quite soon. And, you know, obviously I can't necessarily determine how successful they'll be. I can put in as much marketing and everything as I can.
And write a good book at the start.
Yeah, exactly. And try to get the best titles and covers and all those kinds of things and take all the advice. Ultimately, the proof of it will be in people reading it and, you know, buying it, and I can't control that. But just wanting to do it is such a transformation for me. So get out there and say yes to things and enjoy them, because you can do it. Steve, what else did you have for us today?
Yeah, one more thing that I spotted is to do with computer games. And I have to say that looking at your face, you're not a fan of these things either. And nor am I. To me, it's just I missed out on a whole area of life. I remember starting a job a few years ago, and the guy next to me was going on about there's a shop called Gaming. I've never even heard of it. Like, I must have just walked past it and not knowing it was even there. But I found out there's these shops where people buy computer games. Sorry if I sound like something like
Oh my
like an old
God,
fogey.
computer games.
Young
Where are they?
people have actually
You just beamed in from 1960 or something.
young people actually buying them in the shop and taking them home and playing them on their TVs.
Good Lord, what is the world coming to? Maybe you should try one, Steve.
Well, yes, so this was over 10 years ago, I must stress. And my son was growing up at the time, and his mum, who we don't live together, so he'd spend time with his mum and time with me. And he was only about 5 or 6 years old, and she bought him a games console. And at the time, I remember having a sort of judging thought, thinking, she can't buy the games console. That's terrible, you know, because we'll be on there all the time, not interacting with the world and doing random acts of kindness. And
yeah, of course you were thinking that.
stretching himself going into new areas of expertise. And I must say, I thought maybe it wasn't such a good idea. But then he brought the games console back to my house to play it. He plugged it all in. And I must say that I was sort of watching what he was doing, and I was quite intrigued. And I said, "Oh, can I have a go?" And then, of course, once I had a go and I played against him on these games, I did see the attraction of it, and it is very addictive. And it's so clever to how it was when I was a kid with my Atari or whatever, Commodore 64 that we had. But I remember racing my brother back from school so I could get on there first, so he doesn't get on there. And I can, if he beats my score, and I was like, no, he's beating my score. I'm going to go in and keep playing until I beat him. So I had been in that area before, and I knew how addictive they were. And of course, the games, now, or when my son was young, are so much more sophisticated. So going back to this article, there's apparently an expo happening. I think it's this week for all the games industry. So they get a big room and they all get in there together and tell each other about how great they are. All the big movers and shakers such as Sega and Sony and maybe said Atari then and Nintendo. And but one thing that came to my attention was apparently sales of these games are going down, or sales of the consoles are going down. So why are people not buying games consoles? Well, the reason is because people are using more portable technology, such as mobile phones and tablet devices. And it makes more sense because they're playing the games in their dead time, if you want to call it that. Such as when they're travelling.
Be meditating.
Exactly, yeah. Thinking about doing random acts of kindness.
I'm joking.
And reading things like small stuff.
Yeah.
But you see the people on trains, don't you, with these devices, and they play games, and it's just a bit of fun, I suppose. But it made me realise that the whole marketplace is changing. Sorry if I sound a bit like Alan Sugar there.
You're fired.
Yeah, give me one more chance.
Alright,
please.
carry on.
And yeah, so it made me realise that the whole market for games is changing and how they're being sold, how they're being played. But it also made me think about why they're still so important to people, aren't they? People have to have these games, and I still think that ultimately it's probably not the most positive thing to have in your life. Is sitting in front of a screen just playing a game for too long. I think you're not interacting with the world. And I sorry to sound like an old fogey, not someone's dad, which I am.
Well, I have a very good friend at work who says he listens to this. So
maybe,
yeah, yay, we have a listener.
We love you.
Yeah, we love you, Chris. He is an avid gamer. Yes, he really loves gaming, and so he and I, that was grammatically correct, wasn't it, Steve? Have had some very interesting conversations, usually about the portrayal of women as passive objects on computer games.
We're talking about Tomb Raider here or something.
It gets worse than that, actually, but that's for another show.
Okay.
I can feel myself like.
I can see your expression on your face, actually. Yeah,
it's
scary.
Tense, yeah. But I think he's got it quite well balanced. He plays the games. A lot of them, I apologise, Chris, if this is wrong, but a lot of the things that he seems to play are kind of adventure games, and that he has to find certain clues, and then he has to solve certain puzzles and things like that. So it's not necessarily Grand Theft Auto, where he's going around killing people and shooting people, although I believe he has played those games So I suppose in a way, and I must say Chris is a very intelligent guy. He's a scientist and he reads a lot of books as well. And I suppose in a way I can see that doing that is kind of an extension of reading a book, perhaps.
Yeah, because you're using parts of your brain you wouldn't normally be using, obviously, like say problem solving
Yeah, because it's the
skills
imagination.
and evaluating skills and
Yeah.
you know, how to your sort of brain and eye and hand and coordination and everything else, and you almost like being in real life somewhere. If you
Yeah.
had to get out of a problem, it's always using the same parts of your brain back.
Yeah, so I suppose, you know, some people maybe would watch a movie in the evening, you know, for a couple of hours, and maybe you could say that that's a waste of time as well, perhaps, you know. So I guess in kind of just giving the other argument really, just to
Yeah.
play devil's advocate, maybe it's not a terrible thing that somebody is doing that for a couple of hours a day. But of course, I do feel that children should have restricted access. Obviously, if a game is an 18 certificate, a child shouldn't be playing it in the first place. But also, you know, maybe just let them play it at the weekends or, you know, for an hour in the evening. Maybe even that's a long time. Because, you know, really, when you're playing a game like that, I think you get so absorbed into it that you probably are shut off from everything else. Whereas if you're reading a book, somebody could say Steve, and you'd look up and you'd interact with them.
And you would have like a game and say, no, you've ruined my game, you know, don't speak to me.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess there's maybe more of a sense of urgency.
It's not a very social thing, is it, playing a game by yourself?
No, but I think people, don't they, I'm going to sound old as well now, but don't they connect with other people on the internet?
Yeah, Sam,
the internet?
yeah, my son Sam, he plays games. I've seen him on his laptop playing against random people. He plays, I think it's poker and Yu-Gi-Oh.
Poker?
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose he's 18 now.
Yeah, and things like that, you know, and I can see the attraction of it. I mean, I must say, lately, I've been getting into the game. Scrabble. On Facebook, and it's I'm not on it all the time, but I do my go, and then I might go back next time, turn my laptop on, and the little symbol comes up to say the other person had their go.
Yeah.
So it sounds very exciting, doesn't it, my life?
I suppose people used to play chess like that. I've seen the old films where, you know, the professors would be playing each other at chess and they'd send a letter to say, my next move is going to be whatever it is, I don't know.
Well, what, by snail mail?
Yeah.
Be a long game.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose that's part of the pleasure of it, apparently. So then you're interacting with other people, you're using your brain. So I suppose it's not quite as cut and dried as maybe we think. What was the article about in the first place? I've just completely gone off on a tangent.
It was about, you're going back to the article, which isn't that exciting anyway, because we made it sound exciting.
We did.
It's just about the way people play games is changing. So they're using more portable devices, such as tablets and phones, rather than sitting in front of a telly at home. You know, with just that sort of using that as the main place to play the game. Yeah,
well, I suppose like anything with the portable devices, let's say, like the iPhone and other phones are available as well. You know, you can now have your music and your photos and your internet if you have 3G capabilities, and you know, your email and phoning people as well, crazily enough. I suppose, you know, it's just like we have all of that stuff with us all the time, don't we? So I guess it's just a normal, logical extension of that include gaming as well. And people have their Kindle apps, don't they, where they can read their books on their iPads.
Which is amazing, isn't it?
Magazines and newspapers.
You could, like going on holiday, you don't have to take a whole stack of books with you. You can just a Kindle. I mean, why didn't somebody invent that years ago? It's just so brilliant and so simple.
Technology wasn't available. Mr. 19.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
But you know, I think technology is amazing, as I think I've said on this podcast before, because I remember saying I'm using technology as we speak, and it's amazing. And you know, I'll be able to upload my books to Amazon, for example, myself, and it's really given us artists, if you like, the power to reach out to our audience directly.
Absolutely, and also cut out. It's a bit like when punk came.
When
punk happened, you cut out the suits that have to decide whether they like you or not want to sell you.
Yeah.
And you just sell to people directly, you can actually market yourself,
Mm.
which is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it means, I think, with music and art and literature, that many more people now can get their work out there and to be seen,
Yeah.
and it makes the market more healthy.
Yeah,
And as
exactly.
you said before, there's not really any sort of rivalry between writers because there's always going to be people who want to read stuff or listen to stuff.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's got to be good to cut out the corporate side of it, and cut down on that
Yeah.
side of it, which seems to sort of choke the creativity perhaps, and new people coming along with new ideas.
Yeah. So technology is wonderful, and of course we need to have balance in our life, don't we? And we have to keep interacting with people.
So don't keep playing those games all day. We're not talking to you, Chris, because you're okay. There's other people that play them all the time and don't speak to their parents.
What? Was that an order?
Yeah. No, not you don't speak to your parents.
Oh, right.
You're playing the game to the detriment of not speaking to your parents.
Then that was a message to Sam, obviously.
No, to be fair, he's a great lad, and also to be fair to his mum as well, she did the right thing. He became he's a very smart lad, and I think part of what he learnt, he's going to Oxford in October. Part of his learning journey has been from playing games and problem solving, which he's learnt from that.
Exactly, yeah.
So credit where it's due.
Education. Well, this is the thing that I say about television as well. You know, television can be a liberating and educating experience. But if you just sit and watch a load of crap, then it can completely mind numb you as well. So it just depends on what you are using the technology for.
That sounds just like my English teacher at school going back 2 years now. I remember she said, "Oh, it's really good to watch lots of TV," and I thought, wow, I've got to. My mum keeps saying I've got to turn it off when I'm watching too much. I can say, my English teacher said, I can watch lots of TV because it's good for me.
Yeah, so, and then she said, watch the Open University.
Yeah, I don't think she's talking about EastEnders and Celebrity Big Brother.
Exactly, there's so many beautiful programs out there. You know, David Attenborough and Brian Cox and those kinds of things. And God, we've completely gone off the subject now. But yeah, so we can use, as long as we're using the technology to suit us, to enhance our happiness, rather than it dragging us down, then I think it's not a bad thing. Yeah. You know, progress, Steve. And having
a life, the work-life balance.
Yeah.
And hobbies and so you're doing lots of different things and not just doing one thing too much.
Yeah, exactly. Good advice. We'll put that as an epilogue in Don't Expect the Small Stuff if he'll let us. Cool. Okay, well, thank you very much, Steve, for joining me today.
Julie, I've really enjoyed it. It's been great fun as always.
It has, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.